All right, we're live. Welcome, Erin Duncan. I'm so glad to have you on the Authentic Imprint Live here at LinkedIn Live. And this has been a passion of mine to get some just really impactful leaders like you on here and talk through the new Internal Revolution book and then talk through the Authentic Imprint assessment. But before we start, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes, well, thanks for having me, Dana. Erin Duncan. I know Dana from Southwest Airlines when we were working in marketing together, and spent a lot of my career in strategy and in marketing. Most recently, in my corporate jobs at Mary Kay, leading global strategy and global product management, leading big teams there. And recently, the past couple of years, made a big change and left leading those big teams, and now transitioning more into consulting and helping others lead through doing some leadership development and career coaching, while I'm also keeping a foot in consulting at Southwest Airlines. So I'm in a little bit of a bridge, but I'm getting to do all of the things that I love. So when people ask me what I'm doing, I get to say that I'm doing all of the things that I've loved doing throughout my career.
I love your story. And in fact, I mentioned you in the book. It's called Changing Yourself from the Inside Out. And it's for leaders that are just ready for something else, but they don't know what it is. Your story spoke to that so much to me about how you were just doing the hard charging, and then you realized something was happening that wasn't right. With your body was telling you, right? Oh my gosh, something's wrong. So can you share with the audience a little bit of your story before we get into the Authentic Imprint assessment? I would just love, because I think you're a great walking testimony of, yeah, you can design your life instead of living by default.
Yeah, absolutely. So there were certain things that I would say I was always very authentic about. Like, I was a person who never took the highest paying job, always did the job that I was most passionate about, never did the thing that I felt didn't fit who I was. So I felt like that was where I was living authentically, but where I wasn't was that I was in this productivity trap. And I think you talk about that in your book, constantly, on this treadmill of had to be moving, had to be doing something, never stopping. And it did end up catching up to me, because I felt like I could always push and persevere. And that had been what I thought a strength of mine. Always, maybe not the smartest person in the room, maybe not when I was a swimmer, the most powerful and strongest person, but hey, I could have the most endurance and last the longest, and, swim the distances and, eventually outlast people. Right. So it was something that I felt like throughout my career benefited me. And so I use that as a strength to constantly push myself, keep going and going. And eventually it did catch up to me. I started having some pain. I had to start listening to it. And I realized that while I was enjoying what I was doing at work, I was not living holistically my authentic self. There were other parts of me that I wasn't listening to. And there was more to me than just the grind of the career that I was living. And there were other things that I was meant to be doing that I was ignoring. And I had to spend time really thinking about, what are the things that truly bring me joy? What are the things that, what are those other things that fill my cup that I'm ignoring? What about my holistic well-being? where what are those pieces that I'm ignoring? And so I had to take a lot of time and assess that and look inward, and then do the hard work of then redefining my life and then redesigning my life and thinking about, okay, what do I want? I'm midlife really right now. What do I want the second half of my life to look like? And it can look however I want. It doesn't have to look a certain way. There's nothing I have to really do. I can enjoy every single day and still be, actually not still be successful. I can be more successful.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is the story out there. And this is what the book is about. As you mentioned, it's like, you do not have to be more productive. We just want you to be more of you. And this comes from 17 years of me doing the corporate grind, trying to do it all, trying to be that thing that I thought I had. And what I realize is, and you know this too, Erin, is that sometimes we're just living in the past of an identity we had with our past, but that's not really who we are. But it's an identity, and we won't change until we can change that identity.
Absolutely.
That internal identity can match that external identity. And so that's why this is an internal work. But we start with a formula called the Authentic Imprint, which is your strengths plus your core values plus your personal mission statement times emotional recognition. And it sounds like an easy formula, but if you work it every day, you get the kind of energy that you're getting now in your life. I mean, you're a busy mom. You've got 2 girls. You're, doing a lot. But yet I see a difference in you from, COVID when we talked till probably when you made this big change. Was that 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago?
2.5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. And what does it feel like now, looking back at that old self and that old leader that you were and who you are now?
I feel like, well, first I feel more joyful, right? I'm a lot happier. But I feel like I have more agency over my life. Control's the wrong word because we don't really control, right? But I feel like, when I wake up in the morning, and I start my day, that I'm truly going to live the day I want to live. And then when I end the day, I can look back and say, yeah, that was what I wanted to accomplish. And I spent the time on the things that I wanted to spend time on and with the people I wanted to spend time with. Whereas before, I would say that my my time and my energy was really given in more like one place, and which was work. And while I was succeeding there, I wasn't succeeding in other places in life, and I felt very torn and conflicted. And that was the piece that wasn't authentic, right? And it was really, I think, what was, causing my pain and depleting me. So I think that being able to say, hey, this is how I want to live my day. These are the things that I want to do. Living with that intention. And I think that you talk about that in your book, like, when you say living by default, I was letting, business and the needs of a business drive my day versus saying, no, these are the things that I'm going to accomplish. These are the things that are important to me. These are my priorities, and drawing those boundaries and deciding what I want to accomplish. What do I want my day to look like? What is important to me? And guess what? It doesn't mean that now I don't accomplish what I need to accomplish professionally. I still accomplish what I need to accomplish professionally. I just now also get to say that I'm living more fully.
Well, and you're living in your, I guess the big message here is, when you're living your authentic self, you don't have to work hard. It's just so much easier, right? And you're just living, you have more energy. So let's talk through the 4 areas of the Authentic Imprint assessment, and you took the assessment, and I want to kind of talk through strengths. You came out really high in your strengths, and how do you use your, and when we talk strengths here, we're talking Clifton strengths. You did that a while back. How have you been using your Clifton strengths or your unique strengths to manage yourself daily?
Well, I'm fortunate because I've had my strengths assessment for a long time, over a decade, and just having the awareness and being able to use those over time. I've been fortunate to have that, and actually, Dana, I think you were the first person that introduced that to me and trained me in it. I use individualization quite a bit, both in mentoring and coaching, and then also with my children. Right, they're so different, and so that's something that I leverage all of the time, and I find it to be very helpful in that all different. We all I'm also very futuristic, and I think that helps me in leadership to, set a vision and get everybody on the same page, heading in the same direction, but then realizing that people are going to get there in a different way, right? Everyone's going to, drive to the same place, but they're going to get there differently, and recognizing that has always been a strength for me.
I think that is the key. And when we look at this assessment, and I'll pop it on here in a minute. When we look at this assessment, the Authentic Imprint assessment takes 3 minutes, and you can anybody can pop in there and take it. You can even take it while we're on the LinkedIn Live today, and just really kind of really want you to think about what each of the areas are and what areas you can do, because I think this is all about intentional living every day. So when we think about strengths, you've got that nailed. You're doing well, and you scored a 90% in that. So, and you've been doing it for probably a good 10 years, probably managing your strengths. There's energy when we're in our strengths, and we're not trying to be somebody else, but we're just being that unique self. I loved how you talked about your futuristic. And how do you use your futuristic? Is it planning ahead? Is it managing yourself ahead? Or how did that show up for you?
I think mostly in vision and inspiration. I mean, sometimes in planning, for sure. I mean, I've spent a lot of career in strategy and planning, and strategic planning. But I think mostly in helping people see a different future, right? And I think it helps me stay positive too, because it helps me see there's so many different ways things can turn out, right? It's not, you know, today it's temporary today, right? Or whatever's going on is temporary. And so there's always something to look forward to. So it helps me, and also helps me paint pictures for others.
In helping I've heard you use it when you say, this is what I'm going to do in my career right now, and this is how I see it playing out for me as you're in this season of a busy mom, busy career person working in your career, but also learning how to balance that. Let's get into your core values. So when you think about core values and you did the assessment, what came to mind for you as some of your top core values? You had your values alignment was 84%, so that's really good. But there's room to grow in that. So what are your top 3 core values?
Yeah, in career, I mean, in life, it's, my faith and family. In my career, it's, freedom and autonomy. It's integrity and honesty. And it's also growth / innovation / creativity. I put those kind of together. So those are the 3 things that are most important to me when it comes to career.
Yeah. And, I think when you look at that, I'm just curious, because of your 84% score, where's that 16% gap, you think, in your core values? I mean, it might be in decision making. It might be, that you're just remembering to use them every day. Where do you think that gap's coming from?
When the results came out, that was my surprise. Like, wow, I would have thought actually that one would have been one of my higher scores, 'cause I feel like I make decisions aligned to my values really well. I think where my gap is if I remember correctly, Dana, some of your questions are around, do you use your values to set boundaries and then do you hold those? And one of the things that I'm working on, because I was was not great at this in, before I went through my transformation, I was very poor at holding boundaries. And because I would, oh, okay, sure, I'll stay this extra hour, or sure, I'll go ahead and, let myself get pulled this way a little bit more. I'm better.
Mm,
I'm sure my score is higher than it would have been 3 or 4 years ago,
mhm,
but I'm still working on it. I'm still working on, you know, holding it harder with those boundaries. I am a person who I see a lot of possibilities. I overschedule myself.
mm,
I tend to overschedule myself, and I say yes a lot. And I will say yes even when I have a lot going on. And and you know how that goes. You only have so much time,
mhm.
right? And you have to be very intentional with it. And I wanted to do too much. And so I think that's where I have opportunity, is to truly, truly skinny it down
Mhm.
to the things that really matter on a day-to-day basis. I think I try to do too much.
So what can you use? How can you use your strengths to help you with your core values? What strengths can you use to help you do that? The next time that you feel yourself start to say yes when you want to say no.
I think I need to use my futuristic and say, what happens after this, right? When I overschedule myself, what does
Mhm,
it look like the next day, right? Or what does it even look like 10 years in the future? Because, I think, there's a really good book that, How Will You Measure Your Life?
mhm.
And, he talks about, you ignore your family one night, they forgive you, but you do that over, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And eventually you don't have a relationship anymore, right? So
Mm,
you ignore that boundary one
mhm.
time, okay, but use your futuristic and look out. What does that mean if you continue to break that boundary? It's not a good scenario, right? So I need to be thinking about that, and thinking, what does that look like if I continue to do that in the future?
I think you also have achiever in your talents, if I remember right, and or something that's you because you are a top performer, right? You're a swimmer, all the things you've done in your life. Do you see that achiever coming in there sometimes?
Um, yeah, I don't know if a cheer is even in my top 10, but I do kind of have achiever qualities.
Mhm.
And yeah, I have to remind myself that it's, you know, it just really, we can let it go,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You can just let it go. It's
yeah.
not that important, right? Today will pass. There's another opportunity tomorrow.
Mhm.
Life is long, right? There's a long arc of life.
Well, and I love that you say that because it's like, oh yeah, look at where you've been and look where you are now and how much change you've already made. You've done this, internal revolution with yourself. And it's pretty powerful. So to look back and think, oh yeah, I used to be that way. But now I'm not. Um, so let's talk about emotional recognition, or I'm sorry, your mission statement. Do you have a personal mission statement that you've written that you know, or do you just automatically kind of know your mission? Where did
I
that come from?
I do, and I actually wrote it down because I generally know it, but I wanted to make sure that I said it exactly. But mine is transform professionals and workplaces into
Mm,
well-being havens through clear vision, exceptional leadership skills, and confident decision making. Because I think that when I think about uh, my experience and the experience of my former colleagues and my clients, you know, we spend so much time at work.
Mhm.
what do we all want, right? We all want to enjoy going to work. We all want to be confident in what we're doing there. And we all want to be in places that are healthy environments where we feel like we can thrive. And so I think that if I can do the small things with my work day to day to make any small step in that direction, then then I think that I'm fulfilling my mission.
Well, I love that you had it handy. You also scored 90%. That was your highest one on the Authentic Imprint assessment with your mission clarity. Erin, there's so many people who are just existing, as you said, living in default day to day, but they don't even know what their mission is or taking time. They feel like their company has a mission, but they don't feel like they need to have a personal mission statement. And tell me about the importance of that for you in your day to day work.
Well, I mean, if you would have had me on this, several years ago, Dana, I would not have had that,
Yeah.
right? I would have had some concepts in my mind, um, and I would have known my purpose. I think I would have known that I help people make decisions, right? I
Mhm.
think I've always known that,
Mhm.
um, but I don't think I would have known my mission, and I think that it requires you to have to spend time doing that deep work.
Mhm.
And I think um, why it's so important is because how do you set those intentions for your day? When I talked about like, okay, I wake up and how do I decide how I'm going to spend my time? How do I know I'm doing all the right things for the day? Well, if I don't have that mission, um, your, your mission slash vision is those are the things that you're aiming towards and you're going to measure, right?
Mhm.
So if I don't know what I'm aiming towards and what I'm going to measure, then how do I know I'm putting my time and energy in the right places? And so I think it's very important to think about that. And I do think we make the mistake. I was always looking too much toward my company to provide that for me.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm going to count on going to this company and this company is going to provide that for
Mhm.
me. And it's great when your company has a great mission. That's great. You should work for a company that has a great mission, but um we get very disappointed in that very quickly, right?
Yeah.
What happens when you start feeling a misalignment with that, or you see something that leadership does you may not 100% align with? Well, or you're basically hanging your like what your happiness and your sense of self and mission to what's going on at that company, and that's not fair, right? You
Mhm.
need to take more ownership of that, right? So I think that I look back and say I was putting too much on work. I needed to figure a lot of that out on my own, right? I needed to say, how do I take ownership of that? That's not up to an organization to define that for me. That's up to me to define that for me.
It's kind of like the shoe cobbler's son shoes. I mean, you're helping all these other people develop their strategy and then it's like,
Yes.
but it's like we forget to work on ourselves. That's why I'm going to take you back to the internal revolution is really about knowing how to build your mission statement. And we do have a little in chapter 4, we talk about it and show you how to build your personal mission statement. And you can do it a lot of different ways, but how did you build your mission statement? Did you take time to do it and then kind of keep tweaking it? Or for me, I had to spend, I worked on it and then I kept working on it until I kind of got it where I felt good about it. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think I still iterate on it a
Yeah.
little bit, like change some words here and there. I'm sure if you talk to me in another year, there might be some things tweaked in it. I think, it takes really sitting down and thinking about, like you said, what are your strengths? What are your values? What do you want to accomplish? I had to even like sit there and think about, well, what do I want people to say about me at the end of my life?
Mhm.
What do I want my legacy to be? It's not, and it's beyond just career.
Yeah,
It's bigger than that, right?
absolutely.
Especially where I'm sitting at age 48. I think if I were doing this 20 years ago, it would look a little bit different. And I think that's why you really have to think about, where you are in the arc of your life. You know, um, and while your, purpose might remain the same, your vision and your mission, you know, might evolve over time. Um, and because your life changes, you go through these different stages. So yeah, I definitely had to sit down. I have a whole document that that I keep, that it's really, I built it off of the way I build a company strategy. Like you said, we do all this work for companies and we don't do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
I did it like I would build a company strategy, thinking through, what is that vision, and what makes we think about companies, what makes a company special, like a competitive advantage. That's your strengths, right?
Mhm.
You think companies, like, where do you want to play, like categories and things like that. You think, well, where do I want to focus my time and energy, things like that. So it's, when you think about yourself, you should be um thinking about it just as strategically as you think about an organization, focusing, time and resources, um, as you think about yourself. And so I basically applied the same frameworks I apply for business, for myself.
I love that. And I think it's that theme that I love that's throughout the book that really has helped me. That if I said, I always said years ago when I was going through this transformation, changing me changes everything. And it's, how we look at the world by our internal and our external matching up. And you exactly shared that just then as you talked about, yes, your mission might change as life changes, but your purpose is still kind of there and that legacy is there. And so and we're constantly changing. We're organic people, but it's how do we live authentically every day and lead from our authentic self is the big question here. So tell me, Erin, as we get into this fourth area, which is one of the ones that all of us need to work on, which is called emotional recognition. And
Hmm.
this is really the growth edge for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that did not surprise me.
Yeah. And probably if we had done this 3 or 4 years ago, it might have even scored lower, right? Because you weren't even aware of what was going on in your life. You were just living by default. But now
Yeah.
you are very keen on what's going on in your life. But what are some things that it might be a recent situation where you felt triggered, maybe frustrated or overwhelmed? Um, how did you notice your emotion and were you able to adjust yourself? And it could be something that you can't recall right this moment, but I see these triggers all the time now. It's like,
Yes.
oh, great. I just came back from a trip with a bunch of friends and I had to really manage my emotional recognition. Um,
Yes. Yes.
so how about you? Has there been a time when you recently were like, oh gosh, I should have said this, or I should have done this, or I should have thought more, or I'm
Yes.
breathing?
Well, I have one particular, well, there's my home trigger is I have a teenage daughter that well, I have two daughters. One, um she's more like me, which is not necessarily a good thing, but I understand what makes her tick a little bit more. And then the other one, she's much more compassionate, she's much more empathetic, and um, so the way she reacts to things and the way she handles things, um, much much different. And she's a lot quieter in the way she handles things. She is also much more of a procrastinator, and I'm much more of a person of action. And so it's a trigger for me.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm watching her um, not take action. It is very difficult
Yeah.
to you know, I know that a lot of times I have to just watch her, not do something, or, you know, figure it out on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm getting better at that. And then the times where things happen and we have that conflict, I'm working on being more silent
Mm.
and but it is very, very difficult for me. It is very difficult for me to not try to solve the problem, not try to jump in and give an opinion. Um, uh, you know, at the outset, to wait until my opinion is asked for. Um, those types of things. And I'd say that it's similar in a work setting, is
Mhm.
that if I'm in a room and uh, the room is spinning in terms of people are talking about a problem, and I have in my mind a solution or a thought. I am very tempted to jump in and go solve or push. I have command in my top 5 as
Mhm.
well, and so command, you want to just take control, whereas a lot of times you just need to let it work out, even though it will take longer. Just let people work through it, and it might take an hour instead of 20 minutes, but it's better to let that hour work itself out. But for me, it's hard. It's hard for me to sit there and watch the spinning and the talking about something 5 times in a row. I want to just say, okay, we've already talked about that. Let's go on.
Mhm.
And so those are the triggers for me. It frustrates me, and I want to jump in. And um, sometimes I catch myself before, and
Mhm.
sometimes I don't realize it till after I jump in, and then I go, oh, you know, I should have waited. I should have stopped. So I'm getting better at catching myself before, but if I don't, I find myself catching myself afterwards, um and trying to stop at that point in time, not continuing.
I love that you recognize that. I also love that I heard your strength of command come in and say, "Oh, it's my command." And what we talk about is when those strengths get in our way, turning them off, turning them down,
Mhm.
and understanding, "Oh, I've got to turn that one off, and I'll just need to wait and make myself use something else here." Which you probably go into your futuristic, I guess, to say, if I talk right now, it's not going to be good, so I better be quiet. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and I try to tell people that, right? Like, so, if I'm meeting a new group, or we're introducing ourselves, or if there's any kind of strength exercise, I try to tell people, hey, this is who I am, and hey, this is something that I struggle with, and I might do this, and if I do, feel free to call me out, right? I let people know, call me out, or let me know I'm okay with the feedback. And you know that way they have permission. It gives them permission to um you know basically shut me down. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Right, I'm okay because I'm aware of it. Hey, I'm aware. So when you notice it, please help me. I would appreciate it.
Yeah. So I love that that you've already kind of introduced yourself that way to a new group and say, please tell me because I'm really working on this. That's exactly what authentic leadership looks like. It's like, I know this is something I'm working on and I just need your help. So tell me. But then
Hmm.
the other thing is your command can be so great when needed in leading efforts and positioning and all the things you do with strategic building and getting people to get to the next stage. So we don't want to always squelch it. It's just when to turn it up, when to turn it down. So learning how to do that. And that's that emotional recognition and just practicing it. One thing that I suggest in the book that I'm trying to work on too is just really thinking about, oh, I'm getting ready to do this call or I'm getting ready to do this speaking engagement. I'm getting ready to go present. And how am I feeling right now in this moment? How am I going to show up? I think sometimes we just move into the next things. And we
Hmm.
don't think about how we're feeling and then how to adjust ourselves. And sometimes it only takes about 10 seconds, 10 to 20 seconds, but to really ask, how am I feeling right now? Now, I know that I've been seeing you've been doing some great work. You've been doing some yoga work, right? And teaching yoga. So, how do you use that to help you manage yourself? Are you using that breathing and things like that as you get yourself in some of these trigger moments?
Yeah, absolutely. Yoga. I have been practicing yoga for 25 years, but going through the teacher training is, you go through all of the mental practice of yoga. And it is amazing the what it teaches you in terms of that it's very much aligned to the business world. There's a concept of self-study, right? So svadhyaya is all about, learning about yourself and recognizing, how does my body feel right now? Am I getting, what is my breath like? Am I too shallow? Am I relaxed? Am I getting excited? And then learning how to regulate that and learning how to regulate your nervous system. And that has been I think my biggest takeaway from that is that I was not really even paying attention to my nervous system.
Mm,
I was paying attention to, like, you know, my working out, my muscles and my brain and all these things that are obvious to me. But nervous system is important. It's, we to regulate, how are you feeling? Are you jittery? Are you calm? Yeah.
mm,
Are you breathing? Are you, some of these things? I mean, if your nervous system isn't calm, you're not sleeping well, right? You're not thinking clearly. And so it's been very, very eye-opening for me to go through that and to start paying attention to in more of an energy flow and taking care of my nervous system. So yeah, it's been a journey.
I think a lot of people want to breathe or they hear about the box breathing, all the different things. I know it's like, but just taking a moment to breathe and to think, okay, I'm getting ready to go in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take 20 seconds.
Yep,
What are my things? What am I going to turn off? What am I going to turn on? What are my core
that's right.
values, my mission? It's just going through the formula really quick in that moment and then understanding. So I love that you went and got your teacher certificate and got even deeper in that. So, Erin, as we get ready to close out and you've taken this assessment, you're reading the book, what's one kind of action item you're working on right now from the formula, from the Authentic Imprint formula, or from the book that you're really going to be working on in these coming weeks and months as we get ready for 26?
I mean, it really is that emotional regulation, Dana. I mean, that's where I scored I scored
Mm,
the lowest. I love that I loved going through the exercise and answering the questions. That was it's hard to answer those questions and say, wow, I want to be better at this, but I
mm,
have to really answer this question and rate myself down here. And to really um begin to uh say, okay, every single day, can I recognize it a little bit sooner? Can I, um, can I stop it before I say it? Can
mm,
I, right?
mhm.
Um, can I calm it before it rises? Right. I think, because most of the time, the things that we get fired up about, they're really things that I'm not saying we're making it up in our head, but they're stories that we're telling,
Yeah.
right? They're not, it's really not as bad as it seems, or as, um, you know, uh, I would say, a lot of times we're oversensitive to things, or, oh my gosh, what are they thinking of me? They're probably not even thinking of us, right? Right. All the times that I thought, maybe I looked bad up in front of people, I look back and go, people weren't even thinking about me. They were probably, looking down at their phones anyway. So, it's you know, you look back on things and realize none of that was really big. I've lived and survived 100% of all of my bad experiences so far. And so I will survive 100% of the bad experiences in the future. So they're really just not going to be that bad.
I saw a commercial last night that describes this. It was for, I think it was for Honda, and it was about athletes. And they said, "Yeah, I screwed up, and I'm not going to quit. Not today. Not today." And they ended up winning in their different areas, but it was because they didn't give up. but they learn from their mistakes. And I think we've all been raised about, well, you're good at this, but you need to work on this. And this is, no, you're good at this, stay in this lane. But then learning what those core values are, your mission, and then working in that daily, and then adding that, multiplying it with this emotional recognition. And that's what's so cool. In the book on chapter 5, we talk about emotional recognition and things you can do to do it. I think when people hear emotional intelligence, they're thinking, oh, that's just too much. Stop. But this is a daily thing, right? And just hearing how you're using it daily is amazing. Any last minute thoughts as you think about this for me, you think about the book, or anything else you want to share with the audience? There are people out there right now, and they've got this success like you had. They just, something feels off. They're not sure what it is. We know what that feels like. I know what that feels like. You do too. And somewhere along the way, somebody told them they had to be something or do something, and they've been living that, somebody else's dream for them. What would you say to those people right now?
I mean, I would say you really don't, there's nothing you have to do that you don't want to do, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you have responsibilities. There are things that you have personal responsibilities for, right? Like I have responsibilities to, financial responsibilities or things with my family and my children, but those are my responsibilities. But, try to think about, what would you do if no one was watching, if no one knew your title, if no one knew your anything? What would you really be doing if you could, if no one in the world, if you had no LinkedIn profile and no one knew anything? What would you be doing? And I think, and dig deep and think about that, and then think about, well, what's keeping you from doing that? And and if it's financial resources, well, then maybe you need to think about when to get there, right? Maybe it's not a right now. But if it's just an ego thing, then that's something that you can get over a little bit quicker. And it's possible, because really and truly, no one really, everyone's gonna love you for you,
That's
not
right.
because of what your title is, or how big your team is, or how big your financial package is. You're They're going to see the joy on your face and the energy that you have, and what you bring and the value you bring to the world. That's what really matters.
And you're teaching people, you don't realize it, but they're observing. Your girls are observing you transform your life. Your friends are observing you do that, your coworkers. And so it's a ripple effect. When you start getting better and you start changing everything around changes, and it's pretty powerful. But it's ongoing. It's kind of like we plant a seed and then we keep wanting to go pull it up. It's like,
Mhm.
let it grow. So that's what this work is about. So, Erin, thank
Can I
you.
add one thing?
Yes,
I
please.
thought, I kind of thought, like, you have to do it so you can prove you can, right? Like, you have
Mm,
to get to a certain point to say, like, oh, I can do it. Here's the thing, you don't have to. Like, you can know that you can do it and just not do it, right? Like, you don't have to do something you don't want to do just to prove that you can do it. You can know in your heart, I could do that, but I'm choosing not to do that because that's not who I am.
mhm.
And that's okay.
And that is totally, and that's back to this authenticity, is
Mhm.
be you. And then it
You.
won't matter, because it's not about the productivity.
That's
It's
right.
about being you. So, oh, I love your story. Thank you so much, Erin, for
Well,
sharing.
thank you, Dana. I love the work you're doing, and I hope that there's many people out there reading your book and following your book, because if there's more and more people following this journey, there's going to be more and more people that are, just thriving in life.
Well, and I think both of us are examples of, working on ourselves. For me, it was 17 years of work that this book came together for. For you, it's been over the last 10 years, probably, of all the,
Hmm.
and we're here to say, hey, we're all a work in progress, and just go find your authentic self and live it every day.
That's
So
right.
we're so glad to be here today. Thank you so much, Erin. And
Thank you, Dana.
uh-huh.
Goodbye.
Bye.